Hello, everyone. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. My name is Bram. I'm an evangelist within Miro, and I'm dialing in from Amsterdam. And I'm extremely curious to hear where you're dialing in from. So please feel free to place in the chat where you're based. I got the honor today of doing this session together with Peter Fasano. And Peter Fasano, thank you so much for making the time. Could you maybe introduce yourselves?
Hi, Bram. Good to see you. I'm joining from New York City today, and as you can see behind, I'm in the office, and so I'm dialing in from World Trade Center, where my company's based. I work for WPP. It's a global holding company and creative agency. We are the largest in the world, and have a vast collection of data companies, media companies, creative agencies, and we help deliver experiences for our clients. I lead strategic partnerships here, which is a new role for me. I had been on our agency side for the last decade, leading consulting and digital transformation of our clients. And so this other dimension of partnerships is a super exciting area because it's related to what we're talking about regarding experiences today.
Great, thank you so much. And it's an honor to have you here today, especially, you're one of the thought leaders in the industries, and we've been working together to co-write this article on the employee experience, the neglected pillar of future readiness for enterprise organizations. Maybe just to kick it off, could you maybe elaborate a bit on that concept? What does this mean to be a future-ready organization?
I think, that concept, I think, is a great starting point, and is founded in what I say is radicalizing that I happen to me, being part of executive ed programs at MIT, Sloan, and their Scissor program, where they've studied digital transformation of companies for more than 20 years, and they do have ongoing research to see who are top performing companies. And when they started the research decades ago, it was really about, well, those that are investing in technology are really what's the value they're getting out of it. And certainly in this time now in 2023, everybody has a digital backbone around most of their client experiences. They're getting better around their employee experiences, and the companies that are doing it incredibly well are doing it around their partner experiences. And so, I think if you think of looking at many of the type of indicators of, well, who's a future-ready company? Is it, in the Fortune 500? Is it those that are financially performing well? Is that a good measure? Or if you start unpacking further, you actually start seeing that the ones that are moving real well, and you would expect the tech firms, although they've taken a beating in the last few quarters, but they typically have led in all of those dimensions over the last years, around agility in the workplace, agility in partnerships, and then certainly, with their customer experiences. These are the Googles, the Microsofts, Apple, Samsung, and others like that. But then you're surprised when you look at the list of employee experiences, or those that are future ready, and you start seeing some like Procter & Gamble or Nestle or Ford. You're like, wait a minute, they're kind of an incumbent. How can that be? And so when you start looking at this, you around those dimensions of employee, partner, and customer experience, it's the decision-making process that leadership go through, and the cultural experience ultimately, both for all of those constituents, the employee, the customer, and the partner, about how they engage, the speed of decision making, and the resilience in the marketplace. And certainly all of those things have been tested over the last 3 years over COVID. And now that we're moving into an endemic world, and we are not saying a new normal, but a more resilient type of company, those that have invested in all three of those dimensions are continuing to perform well. And those that haven't will struggle. And so anyway, that's kind of some foundation about future ready. Please check out MIT Scissor, future ready companies for more background. There's a link to it in our blog post, but it's a great way to start thinking about the dimensions of your clients, your customers, or your own business.
I love that. And as we also the title of the article is really about the neglected pillar, right? The employee experience. If we're looking at the time of COVID, did you see anything changing there with the focus on the employee experience?
Yeah, I think everybody was quick to realize, and I think Zoom was appreciative of this as a young company, and even a company like Microsoft, who had teams at a pretty early stage made rapid product improvements to learn from that experience about what they needed to enable their massive employee base, which is what the product really was about, and then moving it into a commercial ability so that now companies have a broad set of tools to do this. So that tech enablement in the first year was the first hurdle through there. Then understanding, oh, right, now that we could connect people together, how do we actually run meetings with our clients and even internally? And at this stage right now, I think that the data that I've seen recently from MIT saying that about 92 million people in the US, or about 58% of all employees, say they can work remotely, at least part-time. So culturally, that shift has radically changed. And so, where leaders may needed to have get on a flight or a train to get to a meeting with a client or a new hub of your employees, and decisions took weeks, months, or quarters. But now with meetings like this, speed to decisions are much quicker. But the etiquette of the decision of the meeting, and then the role of how we're going to engage. Am I telling you something? Are we collaborating to make decisions? All those things that we had done in the past hadn't quite translated into online behavior. And so anyway, the tech enablement was there through COVID, but really learning how do we thrive and how do we get productive and effective outcome, and consider the well-being of all of the people involved in meetings. Being overscheduled is a massive challenge, and learning those boundaries and learning what's an effective use of time for everybody, and using these platforms in innovative ways are the things that we're just getting around to now.
Right. And like in our discussions when we were talking about the employee experience and a hybrid setup, we didn't discuss actually so much like how can you effectively work together, right? There's like a more important element to it, and that's like how can we humanize the way of working? And what I really loved is that basically what came out of also our discussion is 4 items or 4 steps that leaders should really think about when they are investing into the employee experience. And the first one is also written in the article. I struggled with this one. So I'm just going to read out what you stated. So it's about establishing partnerships instead of false families and virtual ties. And for me, it's like when I'm looking at my work and when I'm looking at my colleagues, it's almost like it's my second home. It's like my family. And I really believe in this work-life integration where everything is so intertwined that I find it hard to like split it. And then you brought forth the concept of the fair contract as a crucial component of the employee experience. And it really got me thinking, because when I related to family circumstances, a lot of times you would not say something or you would not ask for something because, like we're a family in the end. So I really like this concept of you, and maybe you can elaborate a bit more on it, on why this is so important to get it right within organizations.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that one up. I think that was an interesting one. And I think there's lots of lessons to learn from, like you said, around our home balance, and particularly now that our work has been invasive to our homes. We have backgrounds. We have dedicated rooms that, have better sound, better lighting, perhaps better backgrounds than others. Or it can be a real challenge of actually, I don't have any of those things because of where I work or where I live and how I work at home. And so, it becomes quite complicated. But that whole etiquette around those social rules of understanding, well, do we have a quite hierarchical, structure over here? And when, this leader is speaking, actually there's no comment. It's just the spoken word, versus, well, when I'm talking to my cousin or a colleague from that other division, we're going to be quite collaborative, and we actually they may know that I need to be thinking about things before I'm going to be responding, and we have an understanding of how we engage, and we have a level of equity that we've established in this family structure at home, and then certainly at work. And so being able to recognize that, and respect those boundaries is a key part of how we're going to enable hybrid working. And certainly when we have the physical world over here and know that I'm wearing shorts with this blazer and shirt over here, but you don't know that in this meeting. But if we were together, you would know that. And I've got a great pair of Air Jordans on too. But I'm looking quite business up here. But when we're in a real world meeting, and we're able to see each other and have those collisions in the hallway, that understanding and family connection really can happen. But for those that were hired in this early stages of their career and during hybrid working, when they were probably more like 90 to 100% at home, they haven't established any of that equity. They don't know what anybody looks like below their torso. They don't really know much about people. So they really haven't cognitively connected. And so the level of trust is quite low, because all of that hasn't been established. And that's part of the equity of coming back into the office, is to start establishing and helping resolve those questions in your simple mind, because this is an ancient machine we have, and it's used to seeing things in a particular way. And so we're quite confused when we only have a portion of a picture that we need for context.
Beautiful, thanks. We also talked about one of the biggest problems we see right now within companies, right? It's like since COVID, based on industry research, we've seen an explosion of 252% increase in meetings. And right now it almost feels like our day is filled with meetings instead of like actually getting work done, right? From back to back, we're in these meetings. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, but I would love to also get your opinion on this, is it seems like this is such a vital or like crucial element in how we're going to redefine the way we work and collaborate. Do you think that leadership is aware of this enough, and what should they do in order to really tackle this problem?
Well, actually, there was a recent McKinsey survey that where most leaders said they felt over committed on video meetings, and so there's likely change to happen since they're feeling it. And for those companies that have been listening to at a bottom up level about their employees and how they're spending their time, certainly they're realizing that too. I think at my company, we took some intention last year and created a program called Making Space. And so ultimately for us for employees to actually have room to do the things they need to do for their well-being as an individual, to actually take part in all of the programming that's available from our people team, from our DE&I, focused initiatives, from our partnerships that we have available around that offer learning capabilities, as we constantly need to challenge a creative community to do more. However, if this becomes your night and weekend job, it's a burnout path. And so what we established as this Making Space area last year was a really bold move. We actually stopped working worldwide for a long period of time, several days, maybe even longer. I don't recall now, but in that process, it gave us time to be able to say, right, we need to stop. We could engage the program we need to do, or we can go do our own backfill. Maybe it's to go do a digital detox in the woods, whatever that is, to give us the space to have reflection and then to be recharged, to be able to do the work. Is a platform that we established to do this. Now, this is continuing on through other initiatives throughout the year, and it enables both individuals or our hubs like in New York or Atlanta or London to be able to unify across all of the programming. So like during this month of Women's History Month, we have a collection of things that we're doing top down, things that we're doing from the bottom up, and then things that individuals are doing, but ultimately making space so that there's a balance of doing this. And this is really important, as I mentioned before, about those people that are earlier in their career. This is critical for our Gen Z employees and certainly our millennial employees, and looking at all employee satisfaction surveys, not only in my company, but worldwide. These two communities, and particularly in the US, Black and Latino communities, are asking for more space, more time, and ability to both bring their whole self to work and find this balance of meeting time. And so I hope all can help find a way to make space.
I love that. And it's also like within Miro, one of our priorities right now as well is like where we've been working on a lot, is how do we allow people to work synchronously in async, right? So one of the things is, for example, we got the functionality of talk track. And whenever you hear someone say, let's have a meeting, let me claim time in your agenda, that's going to suit the both of us because I want to run you through something. You can just do that async as well, right? So like with the talk track functionality, you can just make a recording of yourself. You can send it over to the other person, and within their time, whenever the time is right for them, they can go through it. But I think this mindset where we have to be much more, maybe even respectful towards each other, of not claiming each other's time in the agenda, but respect the fact that they need to make space. And I love that terminology. It is really important, but it's also one of the biggest risks that if leaders do not address this within the organization or do not fix this, then there's going to be a massive impact on the overall employee experience. I mean, it's a massive drainer on energy.
Yeah. And I think in this time of influencers, where I'm making more decisions in my day about what I'm seeing in YouTube Shorts or TikTok around things I didn't, life hacks or other things that are of interest. Certainly getting work done certainly could be the same way. And so distributing, your own insights about a customer, a way of working, are all things to gain your influence within your own company. And I think that, we all look externally around that. And we certainly could do that internally, and it'd save everybody a lot of time, but also help with building your own credibility. And so there's tools to do that within, Office 365 has tools to be able to quick those shorts to do that quickly. And then certainly being able to distribute a link to a recorded video that you did in whatever online platform, your Zoom, your Teams, or whatever, are all things that are possible and go really underused. And then you're going to have those high performers that are doing creative things as well with transitions and backgrounds, and will be a real influencer. But start with the easy ones. And give your team a break, do your stand-up meeting and give your 1-minute update to them and send it over video and be done with it.
Exactly. One other thing, what really, in the conversations that we have had, which led to the article, we talked a lot about diversity and inclusion. And one of the things for me is that I always had the belief that hybrid is really enabling diversity and inclusion, right? You can work from any place, anytime. And I really have to say, you opened my eyes there, where you explained that actually hybrid is imposing new challenges to really build this diverse and inclusive environment. One of the things what you shared is about, we all expect that everyone can work from home, which is not the case. But it's like, if your own home setup is good, then it's not something that you would think about. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on that? Because I think for leaders to hear about that is really important.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, thanks for bringing that one up. I mentioned it a little bit earlier about, the needs of employees. And as we start going through all of our segments and our communities, and particularly from a DE&I perspective about, if we think about sustainability overall and think about what are the needs of, those with sight or hearing impairments, how do they participate in online meetings? And what are those challenges? What are those utilities that we're enabling for them? What are we doing for those that are earlier in the career and probably have multiple roommates, or perhaps they still live in their childhood home? and they don't have a beautiful background or space for showing up with a great tile set like you have over there, or perhaps it's quite loud, because they live in a multi-generational home. So I know that in my Latino communities, these are all realities that we face, where we may have a grandparent and grandchildren all living in the same home, with the adults, and perhaps even extended family. And that's something I love and want to do and offer, but it can be complex within your environment because of sight, sound, and aesthetic. Offering options in these areas is really important, and being aware that there are challenges, and offering enabling solutions are things that are in place. Similarly, transportation. Recent surveys around hybrid and coming back to work are showing that transportation is a major concern, where commutes can take more than 90 minutes to happen. Well, that's a significant amount of time where perhaps you can audio connect into meetings that you want to participate in because you want to have a productive schedule, but you can't be camera on. But will you have an equitable role in a meeting if you're not camera ready or camera on? And how do you overcome that? So, understanding the needs of meetings, when you can and should join, what mode you can join in, and is there equity lost in joining within that mode, and trying to find a balance between them are things that leadership and managers need to be thinking about when they're scheduling and with whom, and then what input they want. And you've mentioned asynchronous. And so, this may be, again, a good role where somebody can actually listen in, but then contribute with a great summary later on with a recorded video, or perhaps they are saying, I'll take on the scribe role in this meeting, and I'm going to enhance our notes and use that capability so that I do have a functional role there. So there's many things to be mindful of, both as the participant and as the meeting leader.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. The more I was I've done a lot of thinking on this, and I think it's really important and also a neglected element of the employee experience when we think of it. One of the other things is, and that was actually the last step that we described in our article, which one is close to my heart, which had the title, "Eliminating the slide deck culture is crucial." Well, I can say before Miro, I worked for 7 years in a Big Four company, and I was living in slide decks about 75 to 80% of my time.
Your currency, yes, yeah.
It was my way of working. It was my way of communicating. And then you had a beautiful perspective on this, and I think this is also something that everyone needs to think about. And it's going to be tough to change it, right? Because we feel so comfortable living in slide decks. But I would love to ask you why. Why do we need to change that?
I was fortunate to have a number of radicalizing experiences in my career, and one of those was working with a visual thinking leader. More than a decade ago, by a colleague by the name of Dave Gray, who had a design thinking firm that helped to realize complex ideas into simple stories, ultimately, and through design. And so ultimately, one of the things that I took away from that, and I think is fantastic now in simplifying things, is that when you show up with a presentation, it's a wonderful way of delivering a concrete concept into slides, of course. However, all of the design that went into it has a impermeable aspect to it that your audience sometimes, many times, will be resistant to say, a lot of decisions were made. It's already too far forward. I can't contribute now. And so if you're seeking feedback and leading with slides, you're really not asking for feedback, you're telling. However, in doing things in a sketch mode and in a draft mode, and that could be with simple shapes, less design, or even better yet, what can you do on a napkin? What could you do on the whiteboard that's just over here to the side of me over here in this room? And if you can really help with enabling others to draw the story and simplify the story and around these simple concepts, then it is open to collaboration. So if you want, and then from there, then you can establish slides later on to say, we've had the input of many, and now this is going to be coming forward. So the when and where to have that kind of thing is super important. And so even coming into, and sometimes I fail to do this in my use of my online whiteboard, is that I will bring in slides into that experience, and it's a little bit collaborative, but I've already made some decision and say, I want you just to be aware, but you can give me your comment, but I'm really already down the road. But if I'm really open, then I would have actually drawn the concept and say, these are my 4 slides in a visual way, using my pencil, taking a photo, or doing it with my tablet. And that opens collaboration and input from others. And so everybody's creative, everybody's an artist. We have to overcome our fear. And if we can give everybody those tools to be able to say, I trust you, tell me your story, draw it for me. And even at this point, there's plenty of tools where you can tell it to draw for you, and it will, thanks to AI. And so, overcoming our artistic fears are being removed, and let's bring that into the workplace.
Love that. Maybe to round it up, one of the aspects as well is that we've been talking a lot is about the critical factor, basically, with future readiness organizations, with a focus on the employee experience, is really about empathy. And when I look back at the start of COVID, we saw this beautiful glimpse of a lot of empathy. You would see managers calling up their team members, asking, how are you doing? Are you safe? Do you need anything? How's your family? Oh, by the way, where are you sitting actually? I see that you are sitting in the kids' room. How many kids do you have? So all of a sudden there was a different kind of relation established. And it almost felt like as soon as we were able to go back into the offices, you would go from this warm bath into this ice cold bath again, right? Because we don't need to ask anymore, right? We're now all back in the same environment, and we're all done with that. And myself, I've seen some beautiful examples from companies that did really well during COVID on a lot of different aspects, but continue to do so. Just name one of them, and then I would love to hear maybe from you one example. It's when I worked within Deloitte. One of the things what they did is really understood that it was tough, especially when you had kids running around, to work and have your kids around. And we got the option to work with a company called Charlie Cares, where we could get business babysitters. And you could book them. They would come over to your place, incredible, nice people. They would look after your kids for 1 hour or for 4 hours, or regardless how much time you would need. But now what the beautiful thing is that what I found out is that they continued actually doing that. So even you're able to go back to work, and one of these extreme measures, they have seen that it had such a positive impact on the employee experience that they have continued to carry it. And I think that it's so important that we reflect upon what worked well during COVID, that it could be actually extremely valuable to continue doing it now. Because it's about caring, right? It's about doing the right thing, like how we have done it at the start of COVID. Do you maybe have an example as well that you can share on that?
And let's not forget COVID dogs, and all of those new fur babies that have come into people's lives as well, that now are suddenly having attachment or detachment issues. Just like a young child would as well. And so, there's this compounded challenges over there. Actually, there was an exploratory I did with a group in Latin America that had a collective of assets of retail firms and hospitality businesses. And one of them was Petco, and one of them was Staples office supply store, were two of the assets that they had. I said, I think maybe putting those together as a pet hotel for business people, and they're going to get supplies there also, or co-working there, are things we need to be thinking about, of new ways of working, of people spaces from your hospitality, pet spaces that need our hospitality, and then working spaces that do this. So there may be a future business there for some enterprise that does all three. But I think coming back to that making spaces commitment that we have done over here, it really is thinking about those things, and it actually is inclusive of pet care and people care as well. So whether it is elder care or child care, or pet care. Those are all things that are part of like an offering that we have available, for a couple of key moments that you need emergency coverage on that, and that's available as a benefit. But being realistic and understanding what are the needs of your employee comes from surveying, from in a structured way, unstructured, being open to feedback from your employees, and then really understanding the segmentation of your employees and where they are. In a creative industry like ours, we need to have a quite open environment and an open communication with people to realize that. And I think recent awards, and I don't mean to make this just about WPP overall, but there are recent announcements in our LinkedIn about creativity, both at a corporate level and within all of the different agencies that are part of our holding company, all really excelling in creativity. And it really has come from an investment in people, openness, and a new way of working, both looking at all these dimensions of experience. And so ultimately, it's our clients that are similarly made investments, the Fords, the Coca-Colas, and others like that can partner with us, and the shared open cultures just get exponential results.
Thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for for everything you have done, also in creating with me this incredible article. For the people who dialed in, thank you so much. You will find the link as well to the article. It's also on the Miro blog. I would definitely recommend you to have a look at it, because everything is described are quite detailed. And I wish you a fantastic day. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, everybody, for your questions.
Bye-bye.
Bye.